In the fall of 1995, the sense of safety felt by residents in the village of Blair, Ohio, was shattered forever. The Nathan Brooks story has been told many times, in whispers, in classrooms, in the minds of those who lived through it. But beneath the headlines and horror lies something more unsettling: the transformation of a once promising young man into the architect of one of Belmont County's most gruesome crimes. Tonight, we're revisiting the story, not to sensationalize it, but to understand how darkness can grow in plain sight behind the doors of an ordinary home. Nathan John Brooks was born on April 23, 1978, to Terry and Marilyn Brooks. He grew up alongside his two brothers on Margie Avenue in Blair, Ohio, in Belmont County. Serving as an altar boy in his early years, Nathan had ambitions of becoming a priest. Later in life, and by many outward appearances, Nathan seemed to be as average as any other teenage boy in the region. However, it's been reported that behind closed doors, Nathan was expected to behave in a way of masculinity, and that Nathan's father, Terry Brooks, was tough on Nathan, more so than his other two sons. By the mid-1990s, 17-year-old Nathan Brooks was a junior at Blair High School and was coined as an intelligent, quiet, yet friendly student. And with an already minuscule circle of friends, two of Nathan's friends unexpectedly passed away. Nathan has stated to the like that instead of feeling immense sorrow at their respective funerals, he found himself more curious as to what would happen to their body parts, evoking a self-question of his place among his normal peers. Following this, a change stirred inside of Nathan as he began to act out in school and behave inappropriately to elicit laughs from his fellow students. And overall, he liked to be ornery. And the intelligence that he once applied to his academics shifted into a desire to learn more about the evil side of spirituality. Hobbies like football turned far more diabolical as Nathan began harming animals and keeping them as souvenirs and, quote, deliberately evoking the smell of death by placing dead animals underneath his bed, end quote. Prior to his senior year, Nathan spent a summer at The Ohio University in Columbus, Ohio with his older brother, where he befriended two self-proclaimed witches, bringing a sense of belonging and confirmation, as when Nathan professed that he was evil, the witches agreed. During his time away from home, while he was working his job at a nursing home, Nathan had an incident in which he observed a man walking his dog, evoking an urge to kill the man with a knife. However, he refrained from this act as a car rounded the corner. Later, when Nathan passed the man again, he felt a sense of power in knowing that he had spared the man's life. When Nathan returned to school that fall, his peers noticed an obvious change in Nathan, with Luciferian writings and drawings in his notebooks and on his school assignments. He began signing his name as Nathan Brooks, Master of Death. Because of this, concern grew for Nathan, and he was sent to the school guidance counselor, allegedly telling the counselor that he would like to cut her head off and throw her body on the side of the road, a chilling foreshadowing of what's to come. On the night of September 30th, 1995, Nathan's younger brother Ryan was visiting a friend's house and called home to ask for permission to spend the night. Expecting one of his parents to answer the phone, he was instead greeted by his brother's voice, and when he asked Nathan to inform their parents that he would not be home, Nathan said, quote, "No, I think Mom and Dad want you home," end quote. On that same date at 3 a.m., Sergeant Don Samples with the Belmont County Sheriff's Office was dispatched to 54496 Margie Avenue, soon to arrive to one of the most heinous crime scenes in Belmont County history. At 2 a.m., just 60 minutes prior, Nathan Brooks waited patiently with a timeline and his plan for his parents to fall asleep in their respective bedrooms. And then, by her own son, Marilyn Brooks was struck twice in the head with an axe, stabbed 7 times in her chest and abdomen, and her throat slashed. Nathan then made his way down the hall, and where his father lay sleeping, he shot him twice in the head before removing his head with a bow saw, placing it in a bowl, and performing a satanic ritual. Following the murders, Nathan left the residence in his mother's green Geo Metro, setting out to find his younger brother. When Ryan arrived home, he finds his parents deceased. His mother lies still in her bed, a knife embedded in her side, and a hammer and nails lie alongside of her, later understood to be used for a crucifixion. Ryan also finds his father's headless body lying atop his blood-soaked sheets. Ryan then asked the same friend who gave him a ride home to give him a ride to the local fire department, where they then contacted emergency services. And Nathan, still searching for Ryan, visits several of his brother's friends' homes, apologizing to those that he's disturbed once he learns that Ryan is not there. At the vacant home of the friend that was with Ryan at the fire station, Nathan leaves an envelope stuck to the wall with a steak knife containing money and a letter that stated that Nathan had killed 2 people and he was going to turn himself in. According to court dockets, it's at this residence that deputies make contact with Nathan and take him into custody for the murder of Terry and Marilyn Brooks. Despite just being 17 years old at the time of the offense, Nathan Brooks was tried as an adult in the Belmont County Common Pleas Court. The jury returned a guilty verdict on 2 counts of aggravated murder and 1 firearm specification. Nathan was sentenced to life imprisonment and is currently incarcerated at the London Correctional Institution in London, Ohio. As of October 2025, Nathan remains incarcerated. A parole hearing originally scheduled for August of 25 was postponed to November at the request of the prosecutor's office, which has formally submitted opposition to parole. Cases like Nathan Brooks show how violence can explode in the most ordinary settings. A teen in a small town, a family at home, seemingly normal life. They remind us that premeditation, symbolism, and youth offenders complicate how communities respond. They also remind us of the long-term consequences: fear, changed traditions, lives altered forever. For Belair residents, 1995 is a before and after year. For anyone studying criminal behavior, this case is a difficult yet instructive example of how ideology, planning, home life dynamics, and youth violence can converge. As we turn the page from tragedy to reflection, I sit down with those who know this case not from headlines, but from firsthand experience. Belmont County Sheriff James Zuzak, Chief Detective Ryan Aller, and Detective Sergeant Jordan Blumling join me as we reopen the files, retrace the steps, and confront the question that haunts this case to this day.
And with me to go over the case is one of my good friends and one of the smartest people that I know, Detective Jordan Blumling, my former sergeant at Belmont County Sheriff's Office. We also have the Chief Detective, Belmont County Sheriff's Office, Ryan Aller, and of course, Sheriff James Zuzak, who was actually somebody who guarded Nathan when he was arrested and until he was sentenced.
Correct.
That's how long you were there?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I've already set the scene of what took place on September 30th, 1995. Jimmy, how did you feel the first time that you met Nathan? Where was that?
Well, as Sheriff McCourt kind of he didn't ask me, he told me. He said that you would go on every trip with Nathan, unarmed in the back seat with him wherever he goes. And I was a younger kid back then, and you could handle myself, and basically entrusted me with, keeping him at bay and talking to him. Really distant. I remember traveling with him to doctor visits, to psychological visits, to whatever, when he was in juvenile court out the gate, because he was a juvenile at the time. Not until he got, bounded over as an adult for the crime. So I would ride in the back of the car with him wherever juvenile court had to take him, and he was just, I kind of a St. John kid. He was an altar boy at St. John's, and just something unpredictable. But there were signs that he was, after the case broke out, and you got to imagine this is before cell phones and all kind of social media, so the word didn't really get out too fast. But once the news got a hold of it, it did. He would talk to me in English and then fluent in Latin, which was kind of odd to me. He was just talking Latin to me. I didn't know what he was saying, but that's a sign of the stuff he was into, and just it didn't weird me out. At one point, we were eating Taco Bell in the back of the car, and he said, Jimmy, I would like to kill you. And I was like, I bet you would.
In a flat tone? Not very...
Tone. No, he's serious. No, he was serious. I took him serious. I know what he did. I said, I bet you would. And then he smiled at me. And I smiled back at him. He didn't, I think he was trying to make a deal with the devil to gain whatever power he could gain. So that's why he did all this stuff.
But what power would that be?
There's a variety of reasons why that could be, and you know, we really will never know what type of offender this is unless he tells us, you know, tells anybody. And you know, that there's a specific type of person, you know, that you're dealing with when you're dealing with something who really, really believes in what their ideology. And so in this case, you know, Mr. Brooks, you know, had a personal belief, and the things that he did, the alleged crime and everything that happened with it, you know, it was all part of I'm sure of a ritualistic plan to fulfill his goals.
And he was 17 at the time.
Correct.
That he
was
committed
17.
this crime.
Yeah, 17 years old. Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty deep ideology to have such a strong belief in before you're even legally an adult, in my opinion. Especially when you grow up in the world of Catholicism and he had ambitions to be a priest later in life. I think I've heard several times that he was introduced to Satanism by his former babysitter.
Yeah, he had to be guided there somehow. I don't think he just made a choice out of the blue just to do this. I think he was guided there, and from my recollection, from what I heard, and I don't know if this is true, but he used to sacrifice animals before he even did this.
Yes.
He would shoot an animal and skin it, hang it to a tree. That's a sign.
You know what kind of animals?
The squirrels, anything, dogs, cats,
Lamb.
you name it. Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
he had gone
he
to...
progressed from doing what he thought was going to getting to the point, but never got there, and then just went to the ultimate point by doing what he did.
Right.
Thinking that this would, like I said, I think he thought that, and he was so disappointed. I remember this. He was so disappointed that nothing happened after the murders. Nothing spiritually, nothing really.
That power that he was seeking.
The power that he was seeking never came.
This is an interesting thought that I had earlier while I was thinking about this case. And I believe the way I understood it, I wish we had those taped confessions, that maybe I'm wrong. You're saying that he felt disappointment because he didn't feel anything after the murders, but it's been said that in his post, crime confession that he felt the love of Satan. And this is just supposed, I'm basing this off of what I've heard. Could that be a form of like parasocial relationship?
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, it could be a situation where the association is interlinked, and from that point on, it's, the belief is so strong that, it has to be done. And then part two of that is, well, what actually happened? Nothing happened other than murder, So I think, like I said, that is definitely, you bring up a good point with that potentially being a connection between that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, parasocial relationship, But what do I know? Ryan, do you have anything to add?
I just think it, a kid like this will get drawn to pretty much anything to put energy into. I think you hit it right with, you said, Catholicism or, anything. Looks like he was really into being, extremely into being a Catholic, with wanting to be a priest. Then he gets on this satanic kick. And, at that time period, I remember being a kid in the 80s, and, my parents wouldn't buy me Dungeons and Dragons because they thought it was devil worship and stuff. I mean, it was a real fear.
What was it? Satanic panic?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, they take all your good records away, things like that. And I always rolled my eyes at it. Then I remember when this happened, and it definitely was just something that nobody expected in this area. But that's Belmont County for you.
You said earlier, when we were having a conversation just about what we were going to discuss here today, that he did have some sort of remorse when you visited the graves.
Correct. When he was sentenced, he requested through the court to visit the grave sites of his mom and dad. So I didn't go on that transport, but they transported him there. That's when I think he finally looked at the headstones and finally came to realization of what he did.
Right.
Before that, no. Not at all. Not at all. But him seeing the finalization of what he did, and he came to terms with it, I don't know how good or bad it helped him, but the court was, gracious enough to let him go see that. And I think it really probably did him good, because I think he finally came to terms. He broke down, fell to his knees, and cried, is what I was told. And, I believe what my guys tell me. So, yeah, I just, it was, this was so long ago, but I still, it's still in my head. So this is something you don't forget. This is something that was just out of this, you can't imagine. And, yeah, you don't think about it until stuff like this comes up, like his, parole hearing. Mm-hmm. And I kind of struck it out of my mind, but now it's resurfaced. So I kind of remember everything. I'm thinking about everything I did with him, and the conversations, and which was normal in some sense, but abnormal in another sense, because it was just kind of weird. And I remember, the visitations he would have, the women from Columbus would come down, Gothic witches. So he was really deep.
So you recognize?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This woman?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
That's one who...
Not that one, but yeah.
I think these are the same person.
Could be.
But I could be wrong.
But yeah, they were all Gothic, and they were all witches that came down to see him. And I had to sit there during visitation and listen. And sometimes they would talk in Latin, so I didn't know what they were telling each other. So he was really deep in what he believed in. So...
Do you think it was a phase? Because I believe that his mother, Marilyn, after Nathan had told the school counselor that he wanted to kill her and throw her into the river, that her reaction was more so, oh, well...
Well, back then, I mean, you didn't take mental
phase.
illness like we do nowadays. I mean,
Right.
It was this, maybe he was this mad, or they took it as a joke or something like that, but this is no joke. I mean, he was the real deal. And, what I remember, a lot about the list, the people on that list, the people that I knew on that list, because he was really bent on finishing that list for whatever reason. I think, he did enough stuff out the gate anyway, but he had a list of things he wanted to accomplish.
And intent.
Intent, yes. Yeah. So thank goodness, our guys got up there and found him in that cemetery. Or things could have been a lot worse. I mean, I think he was... I don't want to bring up the family. I don't want to do that, but...
So jumping back, there is a photo here, and it's the same woman in this photo, but on the back, I'm wondering if this is something that she had given to him, because it says "evil seductress" on it. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
and it has her phone number on the back, and it says summer of '95.
Well, people would reach out to him because he became on the news, and the more people that saw him on the news, especially the type of people that followed him or followed that type of belief,
Right.
reached out to him. So whatever came through the jail mail was a lot different back in the the 90s than it was now. So he probably got a hold of a bunch of people that wanted to say, hey, that was a good job, which is weird.
See, now that doesn't make as much sense to me if he felt remorse and.
He didn't feel remorse until he went to see the gravestones, and that was at the final ending of everything.
Well, it says here in the court docket, approximately 3 hours after murdering his parents, appellant, right? I never heard that word before, talked to Sheriff McCourt, and he described the murders and said he knew that he had made a mistake and he shouldn't have killed them. So maybe he was teetering?
That's common.
Is it?
Yeah, that's very common. Tom McCourt was he was a good interrogator because he was, he.
I wish Tom could be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember him telling me things about this case, day one, 18 years old, and all I heard was the rumblings in Barnesville about this. And then, I ended up working there, and I'm like, wow. But he had that gift of gab, and when applied correctly, one of the things I guarantee you'll see if you would look at a transcript is he'll attempt to minimize the crime to the suspect, defendant, applicant, whatever. But hey, it's not so bad because, and then try to capitalize on that and to draw more information out. So that's very typical thing to hear there.
I think I've heard as well that, I think Sheriff McCourt had a little bit of a soft spot for just humanity in itself, and he tried to humanize everybody. So when he would speak about Nathan Brooks, he coined him as very intelligent and, made the quote that there's a fine line between genius and madness.
That sounds like something Tom McCourt would say.
Yeah, but
it would.
After
But
having been with Nathan and so close to him for that period of time, do you believe that he's intelligent? And just went down a wrong path?
Intelligent in different ways. Intelligent good? No. Intelligent bad? Yes. So there's a difference.
Okay.
So, just bad intentions, bad path, bad. I don't know what got him into this or how he got into this. I can't answer that. But I just know that, it shook the whole Ohio Valley. Mm-hmm. And this is, like I said, this is before you even had these cell phones or social media, because it would have been 10 times fold what happened. So it was a slow-moving process, and once the word got out, it spread by word of mouth, not by phone, not by email, not by text, not by Facebook, not by this, that, the other. But it did spread. And they did cancel Halloween. Because there was, I don't know what the fear was, but because the threat was already gone. But I guess the whole aspect of Halloween and just being Halloween just didn't seem right, and they didn't have it.
Well, it was probably pretty evident that there was like a satanic influence on, honestly, children in Belair.
Yeah, but nothing other than that surface. But I don't know how many people he influenced. I think his circle of friends were very slim, at best. From what I understand, he kept to himself, mostly.
Quiet loner.
Yeah, quiet loner. Mm-hmm. That's it. And, he just did what he did. And I don't know why he picked that date. I thought there was something significant about that date, but I'm not sure why he did it on that day. But
I don't know. It doesn't look like he necessarily had a date on his list here, but he had times. And I'm not sure why he scratched those times out.
I was always told about that was that he kind of had people coming staggered so he could kill them, and then
Right.
now's the time for the next one, and something happened and that got screwed around.
I mean, some of these are in, 30-minute, 45-minute, and 60-minute increments, that he's, this one's only 15 minutes. And that's, there's a group of 4 people together that it just says skin. Like the 4 of those together and molest some. I don't follow how that is in the satanic ideology.
Well, I mean, something
And this could be something that we cut out.
Yeah, I would assume that his satanic ideology. I mean, where it wasn't like this kid had access to the Necronomicon Ex Mortis or something like that. I mean, he's getting this stuff from what he can get at local libraries. There's no Amazon.com back there. There was no internet back there. He's just getting stuff where he can get it, and not really. I don't think half of even majority of what he was into would have been like what the traditional Satanists would have been into. I mean, all evil, but that was always my opinion of it.
Yeah. Perception versus reality, on that one.
Fake it to make it.
Yep, exactly right.
We'll move past that because I'm kind of curious, Jordan and Ryan, of your opinions in comparison of ideological and psychopathic violence.
To me, it's just violence is violence. It's important for an investigator to better understand and catch the offender. It's better for them to attempt to understand the offender's motivation as best as possible. But I mean, you get into something like this, and I always told younger detectives that I was training. They ask you like, hey, how do you work sex crimes this long without burning out? And I said, well, eventually you just got to say they're bad. You quit thinking, why do they do these things? You'll never figure that out. You probably don't want to. Some people are just wrong. And, but I do, Jordan, I know you have some extensive training in this background.
Well, when you're dealing with something like this and you're dealing with, rituals, ideologies, everything like that, the normal procedural book goes out the window. And then you have to take a deep dive and you say, look, I'm dealing with somebody that is against the grain. And, murder is murder is murder, no matter what. But, as an investigator, I learned it from Ryan. I learned it from everybody that I've had the privilege of working with. What is the reason why this happened? And if you understand the reason why, and sometimes you don't get it, like there are things you just will never figure out. But if you figure out the why, everything else starts to come in piece by piece by piece. And you're starting to get a picture of what you're dealing with. And in this instance, I was 9 years old when this happened. Mm-hmm. I lived in Bel Air area, so I knew, the hysteria that the community was going through, and it was a terrible time. And sure, nobody really wants to relive that, but now that I'm on the other side of the fence here, looking at the reports, looking at the crime scene photos, getting a intimate knowledge of things that are not made to the general public, you're dealing with somebody that is against the grain here of normal. I don't know what the word normal homicide, but I mean it's just different.
Well, that's a really good point, Jordan. I was just thinking about all the cases we worked throughout the years. The first thing is like why, who, when, why, what, how, who benefits.
Yeah.
And and usually it doesn't take too long to figure it out. We've had a couple that were, I think Joseph Barton. That took a while to figure that out. Still don't know why on that one. But the only thing that I think that we've handled in 3 decades that comes close to this as far as shock was the Matco Thanksgiving homicide.
Yeah.
Because that's going to fall into an ideological
Absolutely.
violence category
Yeah, in that instance,
rather
it did.
than psychopathic.
That scene just had a very unique feel walking in, and it was horrible. It wasn't, well, horrible's horrible, but it wasn't quite as.
Yeah.
It wasn't occult or anything.
Yeah.
There was some religious background to it, but it was awful. And I remember my youngest son, who lived very close to that scene, was just terrified.
For the Matco case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the hysteria was similar to what I remember being a kid as far as a crime, that awful. So you got, we chased the guy that did that pretty extensively, and he wasn't right. And he, like Brooks, was a religious extremist for his particular religion, which was also a religion of violence.
So going into the mind of a murderer, is it easier for you two, when it's violence that comes from a place of ideology, because at least you can find the why a little bit?
No.
Because
Well-
I would think like with psychopathic violence, if the suspect themselves doesn't understand their why, does that make it more difficult for you?
I mean, our objective is to find out, who killed, and then figure out why, and hold them accountable. It's much more, it's much easier to. Most people, sometime in their life, can kill somebody. You're in a situation, the stars are aligned right, and it's possible that you could do something like that. Anybody, but something like this, no. So it's a lot. It's less difficult to put a case on somebody that just snapped or was jealous or wanted somebody dead for money or just got angry. I mean, we see that fairly consistently. Something like this,
It's just beyond the normal. I mean, murder's murder, yeah, but this is different. This is another level. And when you're dealing with somebody like that, everything that you learn procedurally goes out the book. It goes out the way. And then here we go. You got to change your way of thinking about it. And, like I said, I realized Mr. Brooks was 17 at the time, and what he believed, what he believed, and ultimately because of that belief, this is where we are today, talking about this atrocity. But, to Ryan's point, he's been doing this way longer than I have, but I've got to learn a lot. And, when you're dealing with people who could kill somebody, there's always a reason why. But again, if you learn to understand that why, then you start to figure out everything comes together. And with this, will we ever really truly know why?
No.
Probably not. There's only one man that can answer that question, and it's Nathan Brooks.
Who I reached out to. I have reached out to Nathan twice over the last 2 years. I think you might remember October of last year when we kind of played with the idea of doing a podcast. I reached out to him, and neither time have I received any sort of response.
I don't think anybody from Belmont County would.
So you have your two main victims, Terry and Marilyn, who unfortunately lost their lives due to this crime. But there are plenty of other victims as well, and those are the people who were traumatized, whether that was just based, and I don't say just as in invalid, but whether it was simply that their name was on that list or they were a friend of Nathan, a neighbor. You still have victims in that.
It's still on people's minds.
Yeah.
Especially people on that list.
You still have victims.
It's people on
in
that list, of people's families on people, their family members.
Right.
It still lingers, but it seems like now that it resurfaced. I mean, it doesn't seem that long ago, but heck, it was 30 years.
And there's probably some worry now that Nathan is up for parole, which was originally scheduled. The parole hearing was scheduled for August.
No, it's in November.
I'm 25. Now we're moving into November.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm certain that I already know the answer to this, but I want to hear from each of you. Do you believe that that's a real possibility that he will be released? And then after that, I want to get your thoughts on, is it possible for somebody like Nathan to be, reformed and rehabilitated?
Well, anything's possible, but this is not.
The parole?
No.
You don't think it'll happen?
I honestly, if it does, I'm telling you, it's going to shake us up again. It will. Mm-hmm. It's shaking me up right now because I lived it.
Right.
No, I honestly don't think that would happen. I don't know if he's reformed or not. To do that and, I don't know, 30, 60, 80, 90 years, it's not going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to fix it. That's my opinion.
I absolutely agree with the sheriff. I've been a part of several life cases, and what it is he got sentenced to life in prison to a certain time. He's eligible for parole. I mean, I've seen some people that have done way less, still awful, but way less awful things than he did come up for it and not get it. I can't imagine. I know people are concerned, and I get asked about it, and I just say, hey, there's little to no chance that he'll get parole. When they look over all this stuff, and imagine what he would present to them. I just can't see it happening.
Do you believe that there is a possibility that he has reformed and?
Well, I mean, yeah. Me personally, he's 17 years old when he commits this crime, mm-hmm. and is he a different person today? Probably, but reformed or not, he has no business in society.
I would agree.
We cannot take the risk of letting him back in society with crimes this heinous. That's my opinion.
Well, just looking at the totality of everything, and I don't think that there's going to be a good possibility he can get out. I mean, again, prospectively, I didn't know very much about this when I was a kid, but now since I'm a cop and I've been doing this for a while, the probability I could at least see that he's getting out of prison is limited. The parole board, I'm sure, takes everything into account. There's public comment. There's comment from the victims. There's comment from the prosecuting attorney. There's comments from anybody that wants to have a vested interest in it. And then looking at the totality of the crime. I mean, again, as the sheriff said, this is not something that happens normally in this county, and it happened. It was horrendous. So
that is something that the public can do. They can reach out to the parole board. We'll have to put that information, out there for anyone that's somewhat.
I do know that county officials are taking it very seriously.
Yes, and they did,
very seriously
recommend that he not be paroled. I believe is what I read in the Times Leader.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will put the information out there on how anyone who has any concerns could reach out and voice their opinion on his future. But do you believe
people could change, sure, you know. And as Ryan said, is he a different person then, now than he was then? I'm sure he is. Yeah, I mean, you're not the same person as you were yesterday, and you won't be the same person tomorrow. But you know, when you look at everything from a perspective, you know, it doesn't matter, at least in my view, you know, how reformed you are. If you commit something this atrocity of this magnitude, you don't get it that right to be out in the general public again. You know, you did what you did, and that's what you did. And there's a price to pay for that action. And so, you know, whether Mr. Brooks is reformed or not, I don't know the answer to that. But I can just simply say that I don't think that he has the right to be in society here again because of the past.
And you're asking 3 cops that. Usually, that's the way we roll with things, especially things this heinous. But I don't know how you'd have to reform pretty hardcore. And you know, I've never heard anything that would lead me to believe that you know, he's found Jesus or anything like that. I know sure as hell don't want Tim walking around the streets here alone just for the, you know, the hysteria to bring up.